I've been in a heated battle over here. I went to slap the upper back on the gun. It wouldn't quite fit with this trigger that I have in it, and let me show you why. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to throw together a Palmetto State Armory Jackal. Yes, you can build these on your own, and we're going to accessorize this thing out, so let's jump into it. So this is a Palmetto State Armory Jackal. This is a piston operated AR-15 essentially. It does not have the buffer tube and all that like a normal AR does. It has a piston that runs the action. So you can run these in a pistol form just like this. You can run it in a rifle form. It can be shot either way. On a typical AR-15, if you have a folding stock on it, you cannot fire that gun like that. It has to have that buffer tube and the buffer to operate. This is a little bit different, but the nice part about this, you can buy this complete upper separately, and you only need one part to make it work on any AR-15 standard lower receiver. So you can save yourself some money if you guys already have a lower that's not being used, or you want to build one out yourself, save a little bit of money. That's the route we're going to go. So let's jump over to the bench. I'm going to break this thing down for you, show you how I built mine out, and I'm going to accessorize this and set it up how I like it. So for this Jackal, you can use it on any standard AR-15 lower receiver. If you've got one laying around that you wanted to build out or that you need a use for, all you have to do is buy this complete upper from Palmetto. They sell these separately, and set up your lower receiver however you want. There are a couple parts that you are going to have. One is this adapter for the buttstock. This is specific for the Jackal. Let me show you what that looks like. It's got this insert that threads in on the back side where your buffer tube would normally go. And then it's got this piece, and they make these in a bunch of different options and configurations, whether you want a pick rail or a folding stock like this, or whatever stock you're going to use, that's the one you would need to pick. Then you just install this like your normal back plate, and then it's got this screw and little buffer pad that attach that right through here. You won't need your spring and detent that goes down in here anymore. This all attaches, and that's the one piece that you're going to need. Another thing, you will probably want to use Palmetto's bolt catch. The reason being is this upper receiver is kind of scalloped right here, and it is not scalloped enough for some other bolt catch. I tried to put an aftermarket one on there, a little bit bigger one. I even tried a Magpul bad lever, one of these little guys on there to extend that bolt catch, bolt release underneath to the other side. That would not work on there. It was hitting the upper receiver. I haven't tried other mil-spec ones, but you will probably need to run the Palmetto bolt catch. Now, if you saw my SHOT Show video I did when I talked to Palmetto, they said on the Gen 2 version of the Jackal, they are making that bigger, and they are making it ambidextrous, so you won't run into that issue on the new version, which I think they're working on right now. I have no clue when that's coming out. But those are two of the things that you need to know if you're going to build one of these. You can use a normal lower receiver, whatever you want, any AR-15 lower, build it out normal, and then you'll need this adapter plate for whatever buttstock you choose. So I'm going to get going on building this thing. Let me set some of this stuff aside, and I'll show you some of the aftermarket parts that I'm going to be throwing on this to set this up how I want it. So a few of the accessories I got is a new trigger. It's an American Trigger AR Gold trigger. If you guys haven't tried these are pretty badass. They're set up a little bit differently. They have kind of an extra safety in there, like a drop safety, but these are a awesome trigger. They feel really nice. I have one in my other AR. These are a top-notch trigger. I've got the new Holosun Raid weapon light I'm going to be throwing on this. These are pretty cool. They're like 1,000 lumens and 80,000 candela. They come with everything you're going to need. They use a crane switch. It comes with a pressure pad and all that stuff. They're rechargeable, so I'm going to try one of those out. I've also got a little QD sling mount that I'm going to throw on there. I've got a dye-free Tiger Claw hand stop that I'm going to be throwing on there. That's in flat dark earth. I've also got the dye-free Kung Fu grip. Changed that Magpul one out for the dye-free. This is a little bit different angle, a little bit different texturing, but these are pretty sweet, so I'm going to throw that on there. For now, this is the Optic I'm going to throw on there. This is a Primary Arms SLX 1-6. It has the ACSS Aurora reticle in it with a worn scope mount. I pulled this off a different gun, so I'll have to do some adjusting, but I'll be throwing this on there. I kind of think that'll match. This one also has their Auto Live battery cap. If you haven't seen those are pretty cool. It goes right where your battery goes. You just pull the cap off, screw it in, and then screw your battery back on. What it does is add shake awake to any LPVO. There's a bunch of different ones it's compatible with. It makes it so your Optic that doesn't have shake awake can now have shake awake for like 45 bucks or something. I'm also going to try out an offset mount with a red dot, so we'll throw that on, try that out. And I've also got some Bravo Company M-LOK covers that I'll throw on there here and there. Just gives you a little bit extra grip and keeps some of that heat from coming through the handguard. I've also got a Radian Talon safety selector I'm going to throw on. This one's in flat dark earth. I think that'll look pretty good on there and make it ambidextrous, change out that mil spec one for a little bit higher quality one. Now this upper that I did get, it is chambered in 300 Blackout, non-reciprocating charging handle. It's ambidextrous, you can pull this out, swap it to the other side. Adjustable gas block. I think there's 8 different settings you can adjust. So if you're running a suppressor, which I'm going to be, the barrel I chose is a 14.5 with a pin and weld ASR mount on here. That essentially gives you that extra length, so it's a 16-inch barrel. And I chose that ASR mount because that's the hub that I have for my suppressor, a Bravo hub. So when we get this thing fully built out and get it to the range, I will be running my anechoic suppressor, really lightweight suppressor. It has the ASR Silence Co Bravo mount that works with all their muzzle devices, so that's why I chose this one. So that's what we're gonna be running with. I'm gonna kind of clear some of this stuff up and start swapping parts on this. Like with all my videos, I will have a link in the description that takes you to my website where I'll have more information about all the parts and pieces that I use in this. If you guys want to do something like this for yourself in the future, there'll be more information over there. I'll also have a link for the Ballistically challenged merchandise. If you guys want to go pick up a t-shirt or a hat or whatever, you guys can go over there, check that stuff out. There may even be some info over there that you can type in some numbers and letters and keep some of that money in your wallet instead of spending it. So I'm going to throw you on time lapse, get this stuff slapped together. Alright, so there we got the lower back together. Got that new AR gold trigger in there. Got the new safety selector in there that is flat dark earth. It's the Radian ambidextrous one. As always, anytime you change stuff like this, you want to make sure and function check it so everything works. So we are on safe, no trigger pull, fire, that trigger will let loose. Also got that new dye-free Kung Fu grip on there. So you can see the difference here. It's got slightly different grip angle, and like I mentioned, it's got that different texturing. It also has kind of a finger groove on the front that feels really great. These things are relatively inexpensive as well, and they're an awesome choice for a grip. So let me show you what this new trigger looks like. There's just barely a little bit of take up, not much. Nice light break. The reset, very short reset. Plus, it's got that gold shoe, and who doesn't want gold on their gun? They make these in a curved bow or a flat bow like this one, but these are a sweet trigger. So I'm going to set this aside, kind of clean up some of these parts, and we'll get going on the upper. All right, now for the upper. I think I'll start by installing this flashlight. Once we get that on there, we can see exactly where we want to put the hand stop and the pressure pad for that light. And I'll show you a cool trick with this M-LOK stuff that I just learned. Like I mentioned, this is the Holosun Raid. Here's how this comes. Got a little instruction book, a little cleaning cloth. Comes with the light itself. Like I said, it's rechargeable. Comes with the pressure pad, plugs into the crane port on the back. Comes with a charging cable, a little wrench, and then a couple different mounting options depending on how you want to mount it. This one is for a Picatinny rail. This one is the M-LOK one, so we're going with that one. So I'll get this thrown on the mount and then we'll get this installed. I recently found a trick for these little M-LOK attachments on anything you're attaching. Previously, I would just run these little nuts on just barely, so there's a couple threads. Try and get them in there and get those turned sideways. Pull those nuts against the handguard or whatever and tighten it down that way, or jam something up in the handguard to hold the backside. always kind of a pain in the ass. Fought it. Well, I saw this trick the other day. If you run these nuts down, not like tight, just run them down all the way, then you can stick your accessory in your handguard, wherever you want it, and slowly back these screws out just until you see that M-LOK nut on the inside turn how it's supposed to. And I have no clue if you can even see this. And then you can just tighten it right down. There's no fiddling around, jamming stuff in the handguard. You just kind of let the handguard hold that nut, loosen out the screw until that nut turns sideways, and it kind of holds it in place for you. I just thought that was kind of a cool trick that I saw the other day. I did have to flip this light to the bottom side of the mount. I wanted it kind of sitting up higher, but the mount that comes with this, it was hitting the handguard, so I couldn't get it tight enough against the handguard. So I flipped it over. I may see if I can find a different aftermarket mount or something to get that light up higher. I do like my lights kind of up higher on the rail and tucked in a little bit right up there in the front, but that'll work for now. Well, I've been in a heated battle over here. I went to slap the upper back on the gun. It wouldn't quite fit with this trigger that I have in it, and let me show you why. So if you remember, I mentioned when we were over at the bench that this has an extra safety in it, kind of a drop safety. So I don't know if you can see this. It's got this little raised portion right here that sticks up a little bit that all AR triggers don't. This one has it, and that was hitting inside where this lug attaches. So this is a solid piece of aluminum, I'm guessing, and it was hitting the bottom, so this rear takedown pin wouldn't go through. This is just a lug that holds that rear takedown pin, and it would not lock down on that receiver enough to get that pin through. I tried pulling this out, pulling these screws out, but those are Loctited in there, and those Allen keys are extremely small. I just kept bending my Allen keys, so I decided to leave it in there. I just took it, put it on my ultra precise CNC machine, also known as a Dremel, and hog this out a little bit to make it work. Now I'm not going to show you that. I'm not going to tell you how to modify or do anything like that to your gun. If that's something you guys want to do, go for it. It's no fault of this trigger's. This trigger is an awesome trigger. It works in any other AR. I think the only triggers that wouldn't work with a setup like this, to where it has that lug on the back, is this one and maybe some forced reset triggers, because they also have some extra equipment in there for them to operate. But any other trigger, you'd be fine. This trigger works in any AR as long as it's not like this that has that bolt-on lug on the back where that rear takedown pin goes. But I got that CNC'd out of there with my super precise CNC machine. You know, everybody's got one of those in their garage. This is where we're at. My camera died at the same time, so I didn't film some of it. I didn't even realize that it had died.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
But I got that Tiger Claw handstop on there, the weapon light, and the pressure pad. I set the pressure pad and the handstop up kind of where I naturally would be gripping that and have my thumb on that pressure pad. I will need to get some cable management. You can see that cable's just kind of draped in there. I may get some of those little M-LOK cable management clips that tidy that up a little bit. So that's where we're at. Let me show you this trigger before we get going again. So here's that take up. Not much at all. Oof, nice crisp break. And then nice short reset. Got that safety selector in there also. That thing worked out nice. I really like these Radians. They are one of my favorites. And then as you can see a little bit closer, like we talked about on the bench, how that bolt catch is a little bit scalloped right there, and that won't let those aftermarket ones work. So that's what I was talking about there. But we got a few more things to throw on this. We got to throw those optics on here. We got those M-LOK panels. Then I've also got that QD sling mount that I'm going to throw on this, as well as that anechoic suppressor. So let's jump back over to the bench. I just wanted to update you guys about that 2-beer heated battle I was in, but I got her figured out. So a cool thing about these, one is they are cheap. Two, they provide some extra grip. They just snap into your M-LOK slots, so you can throw these in anywhere. You can cut them to length if you want, so you can kind of customize them however you want them. These are like 10 bucks, and they actually work pretty good. They also will keep some heat in, so if you're running this hard and you're building up heat right here next to your gas block, these will keep a little bit of heat in. They're kind of the poor man's version of like rail scales or something like that. So I'm going to throw some of these on. Bravo company makes these, and I'll make sure to have these linked over at the build list as well. right, we're gonna throw the scope on this thing now. Like I mentioned, this is a Primary Arms SLX 1-6, and it has the ACSS Aurora reticle. I'm gonna be using a worn scope mount. This is a cantilever mount. I think they call this burnt bronze. I had this on another gun that I pulled off, so I'm gonna have to adjust the eye relief and stuff like that. But this is the scope we're gonna be using. And then I have this Monstrum Tactical offset red dot mount, so I'm gonna be running that on there right in front of the scope, and I'm going to be using this Osight. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll try and link it down below. These just came out. I went to like a product release thing of these at SHOT Show, so this is what I'm going to run. I have one of these, and then I also got this little Picatinny adapter that will mount on that Monstrum offset base. That's what I'm going to be running for optics on this right now. I may change it up later if this thing sticks out too far or whatever, but I'm going to throw these on really quick. If you don't know how to mount a scope on, say, an AR-15, I'll try and link that video down below as well. I have one of those that I did. That was kind of one of the first videos on the channel, so it's not as polished, but it's good information and shows you my method of how I mount scopes on an AR style gun. So essentially I just use a couple little cheapy bubble levels, place one on the receiver, one on the scope itself, get the gun level, and then get the scope level to the gun, make sure those are both in the center of that bubble. This would be handy to have one of those real avid gun vices that you can micro adjust, but I essentially just kind of put a little pressure with it on this vice block, get that gun level, and then level the scope to the gun. Snug these down, double check, triple check, make sure eye relief is good and it's set where I want it to be, and then I snug these down so that scope won't move. Then we'll torque it down to what Primary Arms recommends to torque these scope rings down to with their scope. Like I mentioned earlier, I will have all this stuff linked over at the build page. Any tools, any products, anything like that I'm using, I'll have all this stuff linked over there so you guys can go check it out if you guys are doing something like this and need a torque wrench or whatever, or any of these T-handle wrenches you've seen me using. I'll make sure and link all that stuff over there so you guys can check that stuff out. All right, well, we finished this thing up and this is how it turned out. I got that handstop put on there, that Holosun Raid weapon light with the pressure pad. I got the Primary Arms SLX 1-6 on there with that worn scope mount, the Monstrum offset red dot mount with that Osight X. I also did the safety selector, that AR gold trigger, some of these BCM M-LOK slot covers, that QD mount on the side for sling, and then the anechoic suppressor. Now this thing has turned out pretty good so far, I think. I've been wanting to do some stuff to this and kind of make it my own. Couple things that I do need to do is, one, find a different mount for this light, because this mount that came in the box with it, I had to put it down towards the bottom of the rail like this when I had it, so the light was up here. That mount was hitting the rail. This rail isn't shaped like a typical AR rail, so I had to kind of change that up a little bit and put it down at the bottom. So I would like to get a different mount that up a little bit higher on that. But this is awesome, that die-free grip. That is really grippy, and I really like that grip angle a lot better. And the Radian safety selector is kind of my go-to for a lot of this stuff. They are very comfortable, they work really well, and I'm excited to get this thing to the range. Other than that one little hiccup I had with having to expertly machine that one little lug for the rear takedown pin, everything went on pretty smooth. Next video you see on this, we will be at the range. I will get this out and shoot it. Hopefully that's here within the next couple weeks. I did buy a decibel meter because I want to test out this suppressor and see how well this actually works. These are pretty sweet suppressors, and so maybe in that video when we get this out and shoot it, we'll test that out. Run it without the suppressor, run it with the suppressor, and take some sound readings and see what the difference is. Kind of give you a shooting breakdown of this as well. Maybe I'll do 2 videos on there, kind of give you a rundown of that, because these are pretty sweet. They're not overly expensive, really lightweight, but the Jackal is turning out awesome. I'm really liking this platform so far. So quick update, I did find a little piece of Picatinny rail that I had laying around. So I snagged that, put that on there. I used the Picatinny mount with this Raid weapon light, and that got that up a little bit higher. So As you can see, that is not in the way of me grabbing that anymore. It also let me train that cable from the pressure pad kind of down around that M-LOK, and it's a little bit neater. So that's how I have it sitting right now. I still may look for a different mount to kind of tuck that in and get it a little higher. At least it's not in the way when I go to get my grip on the gun anymore. Make sure you guys go check out the build list. I'll have more information on all the tools and parts and everything like that over there. Go pick you up a hat or a t-shirt. That'll be linked down below as well. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll check you guys on the next one.